Thanks, Leslie. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me back there on the video? All right. I'm excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. But more importantly, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make time to be here. Thank you for being part of this initial Folsom Agile Community Accelerator event. You have already taken, by coming here today, by registering, by noticing the email, by showing up, and by staying, several steps towards an Agile journey. So when you think, well, what can I do to make change happen? Know you're already on that path. Now, when I was growing up, there were these great books called Choose Your Own Adventure. How many of you read those books growing up? Right? So for those of you who didn't get a chance to read those, the premise was you were the center of the story. And rather than passively following along the path the author had chosen, you were given several points at which to pick, would you open the door or leave it closed? Would you go into the dark cave and follow the mysterious man, or would you turn around and go home safely? And each led to a different ending. And what I'm going to offer you today is that this is one of those choose your own adventure moments. With each change you're faced with, you are at the center of that story. And your decisions will impact how it ends. So today, you didn't go down the stairs. No, you chose to climb out the window, jump to the roof, and find your way down from there to here. So let's pretend we're turning to page 108 and have our journey begin. You're leaving behind the status quo. How many people are excited about that? Yeah, all right. And we're choosing something else. And in this case, we're choosing Agile and Lean. But though the graphic seems to suggest you're all alone, in case you really don't notice the people around you, you are surrounded by folks who are on that same journey. And they too are saying there's something better out there, and they're seeking the results. So, once you've chosen your Agile and Lean journey, what's the next choice on this Choose Your Own Journey adventure? Today I'm going to talk about two different roads that you can take with any change you're involved with. Be it here at work, be it a personal change you're trying to make, or even changes out in the community that you're doing through your service. You can choose the typical path that most people choose, which is driving people. And what I mean by that is using some form of coercion, whether that's rewards, carrots and sticks, punishments, threats, orders to compel other people down the road. Or you could choose driving change, which is choosing this change for yourself and empowering others to choose it too, and clearing the obstacles for them to go with you. I know I have a preference for driving change. I believe in it, I write about it, I speak about it. It's what energizes me and what led me to joining Intel, was finding other people who were excited about driving change and wanted to make a difference doing it. But it is your choice. And regardless of if you choose driving people or driving change, you'll have more choices that you need to make in your change journey. Today I'm going to talk about 4 types of change journeys you can go on. These are not the only 4, but for today, these will be the 4 we talk about. Would you like to travel by rocket ship? Would you like to travel in our lovely little spring break car? Want to go by train or want to go by horse and cart? And you're going to see, hopefully, through what we're going to talk about today, how each of these changes are manifest in the organization and what you can do to make the best out of the changes if you're given them, or which change method you'd best like to use to drive your change journey. Now, like Leslie said, the goal is to not leave here unchanged. So this is not going to be a passive sit and listen to April's speech. I'm going to make you work a little. So independent work right now. I'm going to ask you to think about a change you're trying to make today. Here at work, for your personal life, out in the community. Pick one. I'm going to give you a minute to either jot it down, type it into your laptop, say it 3 times to yourself in your head. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through the speech. Okay? Think about your change now. You're all still staring at me. Don't want to do it? You don't have to do it. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I'm on the spot, even though I'm sitting in the audience. Not fair, right? I'm supposed to be on the spot. You're supposed to be calm, peaceful, relaxed, drinking coffee. But think about your change. And even if you can't think of one, and maybe this is a hard thing to do, know that later on you can watch the video. Thank you, Intel Studios, for videotaping this. You can watch the video and go back over this and say, how could I apply this to a real change? Because honestly, although I love the sound of my own voice, especially amplified in a large room, I lower it. No, just kidding. But at the same time, I'm up here because I'd like you to get something meaningful and powerful that you can use. Because you've invested your time. So this is the way to best leverage it. Okay. So I've talked over your 1 minute, so you should be ready with your change. Let's begin our change journey. Tolstoy said, everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. He captured the essence of most of our change journeys today. People come up with what they think other people should do. And then they either use the power vested in them or they search around for someone else's power to make it happen. And I won't ask you to raise your hands to tell me how many of you have been at the receiving end of someone else's good idea. Because there's no need to make everybody raise their hands. But what you've been the victim of, and we've all been the victim of this at one point or another, is someone driving people. And yes, this is my artwork. Be very impressed. I wasn't hired for my artistic ability. But if you are ever giving a speech and you need to find the perfect picture that you can get copyright to, may I recommend you just rip out a pen and jot something down. It's good enough. It's all right. So someone comes up with a good idea about what other people should do. Then they use their authority to make it happen. And notice this. You have this looming red mountain. Someone else's good idea, not your good idea. And they're compelling you forward, head hung down. How well does this work? When that person with the whip goes away? Has anybody ever borrowed authority from a boss only to have them take it back halfway through a project? Then you're like, no, we were finally getting somewhere. But were you really? The sad part is this is the model most of us grow up with in large organizations. This is what we're taught. And I'll admit, the first time I had an opportunity to make a large-scale change, I went and found the biggest boss I could find and borrowed his authority to whip the people forward to get that outcome. And they rightly resented me for it. And yet I knew no other way. So today I'm going to talk to you about another way. President Theodore Roosevelt said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." He focused it on you. I'd like you to focus any of your changes on what you can do. And when we start from there, here's what we get. We get driving change, where you're choosing the change for yourself and empowering others to go with you. Notice the green mountain, right? Many of you maybe enjoy hiking as a hobby. You love picking the big mountain and trying to conquer it. But how many of you would love to go on the hike that you were ordered to go on at the time that was convenient for someone else with the pack they packed for you that they had no need to carry? Might be the same mountain, and yet in those conditions you don't want to go. And that's what we do with many change efforts in large organizations. Is we take great destinations and we make them menacing. So I argue you can make that destination meaningful if you'll lead from the front. So notice again my awesome artwork. Be impressed. But you've got the smile on your face. You've got the tools that you have with you and ready. And you're going first and saying, "Who's with me?" And today you have two great examples of people who are driving change in Intel. Leslie and Brian, in putting this event together, have said, a Folsom Agile community matters, and we're going to put our own effort into making that happen. And I know we gave them a little bit of a round of applause earlier, but I want to give them another round of applause now if you'll join me. And when they did that, they said, "Who's with me?" And that committee they talked about at the beginning of today's session stepped forward and said, "Please, may I, on top of my day job, do more to make this community happen?" That's what driving change does in organizations. And that's what you can do with it. So knowing what you know now and thinking back to that change that you have in your head or you wrote down, will you choose to drive people or drive change? I know which one I'd pick, but you have to decide for yourself. And once you do, there's still more to decide. So is your change journey most like our rocket ship, our car, our train, or our horse and wagon? Now, these are just archetypes, not categories, mind you, but archetypes, where they're rough approximations of a change. So you might say, well, yeah, I've got one, but it doesn't quite fit these four. That's okay. I'm just going to talk to you about the four, what I find is most prevalent in organizations, and see if these can apply to you. So first, my favorite, the rocket. So what's a rocket sort of change journey? You get to make a transformative change. You're not looking for the 10%. You're looking for 100% improvement, 1,000% improvement. You're willing to go where there are no best known methods. Is anybody excited to go to a place like that? Yeah, people, courageous folks down here, my astronauts, yeah. Are you willing to accept the fact that you might not make it to the destination the first time? Some people, that's very scary for them. But if you're ready for that, you're ready for the rocket. And you've got an aspirational mission. You're not trying to tweak something. You're not trying to get away from pain. You're trying to make the world a better place, and you're ready to put yourself there to do it. And there's something important about the fact that astronauts board rockets willingly. Hopefully you all chose to come here willingly. You choose to be part of your Agile implementations willingly, I hope. And you choose to drive your changes willingly. The willingness to go on the journey is essential in whether or not it succeeds or fails. And you can make your rocket journey more successful if you're willing to celebrate all the learning, especially the failures. What I find in large transformations is even set up with the best intentions, if they're afraid of anyone noticing they've done anything wrong ever, they collapse under their own weight. If anything, I'd encourage you, if you take on a transformative change, to share more of your small goofs and what you've learned from them, and celebrate them in a way which says, glad we're not going to do that again, and here's how I'm going to share it with you. Consider sharing that with your new Agile community. Consider sharing your learning on Inside Blue. There are many people who want to get to the moon with you and would love to learn what you've learned in how to get there better and faster. Not creating more alien abduction stories. What this is don't force people to go on your transformation with you. The worst thing we do as change agents is drag the unwilling along. I've been through too many failed lean and theory of constraints and agile implementations where people hate the tool because they hate the way the tool was done to them. As Ken pointed out this morning, Agile works. Theory of constraints works in right environments. Lean works in right environments. But it doesn't work on people who are unwilling. So don't force them to go with you. Seek to understand, why don't you want to join me? What are your concerns? How can we mitigate those in line with the principles? You'll have a much better outcome. And accept if you return it that some people won't think you've ever been there. So personal story here. I was responsible for implementing, in this case it was theory of constraints, on an engineering group, with an engineering group, one summer. They had a backlog of paperwork they needed to issue. They'd issued 60 products in a month before. In order to get through the backlog, we needed to issue 200 in the next month. Through applying the various principles, we did that. We actually ran out of their paperwork sort of work that they were doing. Walked into the executive's office, showed him the reports which said we had run out of work, we were so effective. And his only comment was, you can't keep up the pace. I said, well, yeah, because I'm out of work. We're going to go do all this other work instead. He couldn't see it. And for years I struggled with, why couldn't he see it? And the reality was he'd never experienced someone who had been able to solve a problem that fast. Problems don't get solved that fast. Improvements don't happen overnight. There's something wrong with the data. I said, no, I've been there. I came back. Here's the picture. So accept the fact that some people will not believe that the improvements that you've made really happened, and go anyway. But share the learning with those who do believe. And again, look around you in this room. These are the people who are hungry for the stories of how you've made it there and back, how you've won, how you've been successful, how your team is flourishing with it. So even if a few folks around you are deaf to that story, tell it anyway and share it with this group. Now, maybe you're not trying to make a transformative change. Maybe what you need is a developmental journey. So you're looking to take this choose your spring break road trip car journey. You want to develop a new skill, see something new. Maybe you want to go to the Agile and Lean Development Conference next month in Hillsboro, Oregon. That's my one to add today. Please sign up. We'd love to see you there. You've got a team that's excited to learn and grow. I mean, everybody loves to tell their stories of that fun trip with their friends or their family where they all had a great time going. But if anybody's ever gone on a road trip with somebody who didn't want to be on the road trip with you, you know the opposite journey is also possible. Just because you're in a car together and going on that road doesn't mean it will have to be joyful. So what I encourage you to do is take those people with you who are excited. Don't force anyone along with you. And you know there aren't others as excited as you are to be on that same trip. So if you really want to go and get that learning, figure out a way to go with people who care. And then share that with others. So we're going to talk about that. Learn as much as you can. I've seen too often in change efforts where someone will finally get a chance to go to an event like this, finally get a chance to go to a conference, to go to a class they've been dying to go see, and they don't leverage the full thing. They say, well, it's a 4 hours, so I'm going to go for 4 hours, and then I'm going to go sit on my computer and do my email and go home. What I'm going to encourage you is, once you've chosen to be on that adventure, maximize its potential. Who can you meet with while you're on a different site that you've been dying to actually see face to face? Who can you connect with? How can you leverage that? How can you take that extra time you've got and write something, whether it's on Inside Blue or on your group's SharePoint page or on a blog that you've got about what you learned, so that you're storing that information for others to learn from. I want to encourage you to expect inconveniences, yet enjoy the trip anyway. Sure, you've all got your change stories you could tell, and they're probably very similar to the real life spring break stories that people tell. My husband, before he was my husband back in college, went on a spring break trip with his friends to Florida. They had a great time. They're on their way back from Florida to Wisconsin, and while they're still in Florida, they hit a turtle. Poor turtle, poor them, because the turtle put a hole in their muffler. So the whole way home from Florida to Wisconsin, rather than having nice conversations about all the fun they just had, they had nice conversations while shouting about all the fun they just had, and showed up back at college hoarse. Now, I'm sure all of you have probably been on one of those sorts of journeys where you thought you were going on this grand adventure to learn something new, to do something exciting, to get to someplace really cool, and then something happened that messed it all up. I encourage you to have fun with it anyway. Figure out a way to make, remember that time where we were all going to that class and that instructor got sick? But man, we figured out a way to use that opportunity to create an open space session and make the best of it anyway. Because we were all there and it was just too bad they couldn't be there that day. Versus saying, oh, the instructor's not here. Okay, let's all go back to our email. Right? So choose your own adventure and enjoy those inconveniences. Now these next two go together. Bring back souvenirs and not hold travel photo slideshows. How many of you have ever, will you admit, and maybe you don't need to raise your hands because your coworkers are in the room, that you've gone to a class and you've come back and forced your group through a PowerPoint presentation where you retold the class? Okay. Or you came back and demanded from your boss, if he was any sort of boss, he would implement this now. Here's the slide deck, do it now. Anybody? You don't have to raise your hand. I know you're out there. What I challenge you to do is that this bring back souvenirs concept is ask folks, hey, I'm going to go up to this Agile and Lean Development Conference in Hillsborough. Oh, I promised you one ad. That's two. Oh, well, I get the podium. What would you like me to bring back? What sort of learning would you like? Teammate, maybe you're not interested in going, but I'm going all week. Here are the various sessions. I give you the opportunity to tell me which one session you'd like me to go to, and I'll bring that learning back from you. Because I know you're so busy, you can't make it all week, but I'm going to go. That's a souvenir you can bring back for them. I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you, when you get back from these opportunities, even from today, you can say to your group, hey, all of these videos are going to be available. Would you like to watch it with me? Not, I got the boss to agree that he's going to make you all watch the video of April's keynote. Don't do that. Choose to drive the change instead. Now, say you've got a train type of change facing you. You need to move a large amount of people or process to a new location reliably over and over again. Maybe it's something that does require strong central administration. We can't all pick a big tool we're going to use. We're going to need to pick one tool for all of us so we can standardize enough so that stuff talks to each other. That's a train type of change. And the unfortunate aspect of these sometimes is that it's really hard to tell, okay, who's in charge of starting this train? Oh, well, who's in charge of deciding where the track goes? Hard to tell. And you spend a lot of time focused on, well, are you on board with that new tool we're going to roll out? Well, I think I am, but what is it and where's it going? And you're asking all these questions. Lots of large organizations are filled with these types of changes, but here's how to make the best of it. I encourage you, even though sometimes there's sort of that counterculture thing of resisting getting on board, right? Until they tell me exactly where this train is going and where it's going to be headed and what we're going to do there, I refuse to say I'm supportive of this corporate goal. Nope, not going to happen. Not going to get on board. I'm going to tell you to do the opposite. I'm going to encourage you to do the opposite, right? I have no authority over you. Can't tell you. I'm just going to encourage you. I encourage you to do the opposite. Get on board. Say, hey, I really support that. When are we leaving? Where are we going? How can I help? Those questions, I will tell you, scare people in bureaucracies a lot of times. Wait, what? You actually want details? You want to help me make this big change? Yes. Where are we going? When are we leaving? How can I help? So make your way forward. Who's in charge of moving this out? Have they decided? Can I go meet with that person and understand it better? Have they put the surveyor out there to decide what route are we taking with this change? Are we going to roll it out first to this group, to everybody all at once? Have they decided that yet? How can I help make that decision if it matters to my group? Most people think these sorts of change journeys in large organizations are done by other people and I'm a passive actor. I can't influence that. I'm going to tell you today you can, if only you'll ask these questions and prompt for that plan and make your way forward. Now, say you do all those things. You say, great, I'm really excited. I'm on board. Who's going to lead this? How can I help? And you can't get an answer. So what do you do in the meantime, rather than getting frustrated? Because I'm sure all of you out there probably have a case where you've been really excited about a corporate change that was coming, and then you couldn't get details. It never seemed to start. You kept looking, like frustrated with it. So I'll tell you you can do two things, right? Request permission or seek forgiveness, depending on your preference, to take side trips, which is, okay, while we're waiting to roll out that new tool, I'm going to go and look at how other people who've used that tool are making it work. Great side trip, very beneficial for your group, for yourself, for the community. Or you're saying, I'm going to keep myself busy while I wait, which is I know once they roll out a tool like that, we're probably going to need to be really good at these behaviors. So how can I help my team figure out how to be good at those behaviors while we wait? The frustrating part in bureaucracies, if you aren't in charge of when that train leaves and where it goes, is that helplessness. But you're not helpless in that change. You can choose your change journey and much more prepare yourself, prepare your group, prepare your larger organization to be ready when that train leaves. Because some things in large organizations need to be train-type changes. We don't want to all scatter. We want to go together. And it's hard to decide where are we going together. But you can help make those decisions and make that work better. And the wagon. Wagon-type changes are those incremental changes that aren't really that urgent. Maybe there's somebody who's required to issue a change to a process, but there's no date when everybody's supposed to actually change their behavior to conform with that process. Has anybody ever been part of one of those, right? These are wagon-type changes. Someone, somewhere, says to do something by some time. And I bet if you made a list in your head or out on paper or in your laptop of the changes that you're facing in your group, you could stamp wagon, 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 wagon on a lot of those changes. And that poor horse there, he doesn't know where he's going. He's just been set out to pull the cart. What's going on? Oh, another good trick, side note. If you ever need to do presentations, coloring pages, a great way to get clip art. Because they don't have any copyrights on them to make you have to take that off. So I steal coloring pages. Plus, I have lots of little kids, so I steal coloring pages all the time. Side note. All right. But you're doing this change because you must, but you don't really quite know, does it matter, doesn't it matter? It's not going to really change the organization. You're just watching it pass by. And usually if you are looking for, well, who's in charge of that change? The best you can do is, folks will say, well, IT. Well, there's how many thousands of people in IT? Who in IT? I don't know, IT. Well, who's doing it? Corporate services. Well, who in corporate services? I don't know, corporate services. Boogeyman, ooh, corporate services. Those are wagon type changes. But what can we do if we're on one of those change journeys? Well, we can help move the change forward. If you like it, if you're interested in it, if you want to see it happen, go find out how can I make this change happen. The way to find out how can I make this change happen is to ask a lot of people, how can I make this change happen? And trust me, they will look at you very confused because nobody asks to help wagon type changes along. In fact, the people that are responsible for putting these wagons into the system usually face a lot of people coming and yelling at them. Why did you let that loose? We don't like that. Right? So help make it move forward. Clear the obstacles for others to make the change too. I don't know how many times I've seen rollouts of processes in large organizations and people are going, well, I heard 6 months ago they might tell us someday about that. I'm really excited for the day they tell us. Well, did you ever think to ask anybody? Why would I ask? They'll tell us. So clear those obstacles for others to change too means go find out. Share that information with your group. Hey, did you guys know we now have this new feature over here we can use? It might take eternity for that to accidentally get to you. So you can go grab that information, bring it to people, share it with this community. It'll help. And if all else fails, and yes, I do have little girls at home, let it go. You can just let the change fade away. You'll never face it again. It wanders off into the sunset. You wonder, how'd the horse fare? But after that, you're good. It'll end on its own. I mean, sadly, organizations are really good at releasing wagon-type changes into the organization and then losing track of them. But I'll borrow this one thing that I got from the Navy, which is at least put it in a safe condition. Just if you know that change involves something that's dangerous, hazardous, a problem for someone else, make sure it's not roaming wildly, right? Did you know that change that's coming is actually going to shut off that feature that your team's been using? If you figure that out, don't hope your friend over here learns about it on Inside Blue accidentally. Please go tell them. That's the way to put it in a safe condition. Or talk to the person who started it if you can find out and say, hey, did you know that actually creates this negative problem over here? Chances are good in a large organization they never would have known. So help them connect the two. And these first two words are important. And the first one up there, please. Please, no. You don't have to go it alone. What I find most often in organizations is lots of individuals feeling isolated, that they're the only one who's on this change journey. And though they have the groups that they whine and complain and holler and yell with, if they really want to make positive changes and be joyful and energetic and enthusiastic about it, they feel all alone. Please know you're not. Look around you in this room. You have today a Folsom Agile community. They are here to support you. You and your change journey matter, and you can make it better, starting today. Now, if you think you haven't started your change journey, I'm here to tell you you have. By opening the email, reading the flyer, looking at the poster, signing up, moving the meetings, blocking your calendar, coming today, you have started the change journey. So if you think, who am I to, or I can't, or I would never, no, you already have. And choose the change journey that's right for you. Tomorrow I'm going to go back to Hillsborough, on to the other change adventures I've got to take on. You're going to be here with your change. You've got to decide, where do I want to go? Will I drive people or drive change? I know what my preference is, but that choice is still yours. You have to know which archetype of change will fit you best. Do I need a rocket ship today? Am I excited for that spring break trip? Where's the train I need to board? Or how can I go help that poor horse and cart get back to their home? Who will go with me? Look for your Folsom Agile community. Look for me. I am in the global. I am Blue Badge. And look for the emergent systems and coaching team that I'm happy to be a part of. We're here for you. And I can't tell you you'll succeed, but I can tell you to go anyway. Even those journeys that aren't full successes are still wins if we learn something and we share that learning so others don't have to fall in the holes we did, can benefit from our scrapes and scars, and can make it better tomorrow. So will you choose to do something new? I hope you do. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can find me. I'm here, and I'm happy to help. Thanks.